We're heading to Texas, circa 1980. Hang out with some baseball players. Talk about Richard Linklater's Everybody Wants Some from 2016. And remember, guys, voluntary means mandatory. I'm Austin Johnson,
I'm Connor Eyzaguirre.
and this is Filmgazm. All right. We're going to be continuing our top 10 films of the 2010s project with my number 10 film, favorite film of the decade, which is Everybody Wants Some, 2016, the Linklater written and directed baseball coming of age comedy. Just lights out movie for me. I still remember the first time I saw it and every watch in between. But it was a real treat to watch it this time, to have the intentions of giving it awards and whatnot. My older brother Adam will be joining us later on in the episode. Uh, he's doing his thing. He's not here for a long time. He's here for a good time, and that's quite all right. But we got myself and Connor here, and this is your first time with this movie, and you've heard me rave about it over and over. The expectations probably were too lofty, but I know you did have a good time. So let's hear about your initial thoughts.
Well, first of all, I am so relieved that I enjoyed this. There's always that initial, fear of like, if I don't like this, I'm the asshole. And that happens so many times that I'm always like, come on, please, not this time. Linklater, I've yet to really be disappointed by. Even his movies about nothing have something to say.
Mm.
And I do appreciate that. So I did a fuck ton of Linklater prep for this.
Good.
Leading up to Everybody Wants Some. I hadn't seen Dazed and Confused in over a decade, so I wanted that to be, this is viewed as the spiritual successor to Dazed, so I wanted to watch that. Loved it. Watched Bernie. Loved it. Watched Slacker. Liked it way more than I thought I would. Then I watched Everybody Wants Some. And yeah, this is a delightful depiction of Texas college culture, filmed at the college that I went to, which is super cool. So that initially was like, all right, I like this because I'm seeing buildings I recognize that I've been to, that I've suffered in. And it's pretty pointless. It's just a bunch of dudes, a bunch of baseball players trying to get laid a couple days before school starts. And that's it. There's not really much else to this movie. But yeah, it's funny. It's endearing. It's like, never tries to be anything more than it is. And Linklater's really good at that, This is he always gives you like, this is what this movie's going to be. Are you in or out?
Yeah.
He never tricks you. He never lulls you into a false sense of security. He never tries to one up you. It's always just, here it is. Do you want to watch it? If not, that's cool. Go do something else.
Yeah. And I think that's admirable, right? With this movie, Everybody Wants Some, the very beginning is, Blake Jenner, our main character, Jake Bradford, coming into this house, and he like all he has is like a duffel bag and like a box of records, and he goes into this house and he meets these two complete douchebags, McReynolds and Roper, and immediately they ask him, what position do you play, and pitcher, and McReynolds like wipes his hand off, and is like, oh, pitcher, fuck. They get Lone Star out of the fridge and pop the caps on like the counter, and you're like, you're either in and you're out, like you said, it's goes one way or the other. So yeah, I saw this movie like when it premiered. I was living in Houston, which is where our guy Linklater is from. I spent a lot of his time in East Texas. We'll talk a little bit more. We'll talk a lot about him as we go through the episode. Linklater, he's a complete mastermind in my eyes, and possibly my favorite filmmaker of all time. So it's really cool that this movie, a lot of his movies actually come out in different areas of Texas, because he kind of makes a conscious effort. He's the founder of Austin Film Society, and like is very, very much an advocate for cinema and for movies being seen from all budgets, right? Micro budgets to big movies, classic movies. He just loves it all. So it was really cool to see this film. It was at this theater in the Woodlands right outside of Houston. I went by myself, and I just had an absolute blast. I was like, yeah, this is some of Linklater's best shit. It's like maybe his funniest movie. So, you got School of Rock, of course. Bernie's got some great moments. Hell, Dazed and Confused is funny as shit as well. But there's something about Everybody Wants Some, just the cadence that this movie moves with, and it's 2 hours, but you don't really feel it. It's just a breeze. It's a hangout movie. So I still remember that. You definitely recognize the Texas State stuff. You recognize it was filmed just straight up all over Texas, and so there's different aspects that are really cool about that. I guess let's just jump right into this question because I'm really curious to hear your answer, especially since you've done some of this research now. I think I know what your answer is going to be, but I'm not positive. My question is, I have two. I'll start with this one and we can do the other one. The other one's a little bit easier. This one is, what's your favorite Richard Linklater movie?
It's definitely School of Rock.
Yeah. Okay. I thought maybe Bernie snuck in there because you like that one a lot.
Bernie is close. Linklater has a magical effect on Jack Black. He can make him do his best work. But School of Rock is the first one I ever saw. Saw that when I was 8?
Yeah, and 2003. Yeah,
I loved it. I've loved it ever since. It helped formulate my love of rock and roll. That's the first time I ever heard, the Black Keys, Led Zeppelin, The Who, I think AC/DC as well, who've become my all-time favorite band. So that's where it's at. But I've seen a good chunk of his films now, and I do have some more homework, but I think Bernie's probably second. Then I think it's probably Before Sunset.
Oh, dude.
That's my favorite of the trilogy because it's the most hopeful. It's like, hey, they're gonna be together in the end. Like sometimes you do get a second chance with the one you love, and then you watch part 3 and you're like, oh no,
yeah,
it got sour. Shit. But it's funny. While I was this past week, when I've had Linklater in my head, I went to a Goodwill in Austin because I had to be there for something regarding my new job.
Yeah.
And I walked into a Goodwill and I walked out with Fast Food Nation and Waking Life.
Oh, I love Waking Life. Good.
So I didn't have time to watch them, but the fact that they were there waiting for me during this week was kind of like, oh my God.
Yeah, Fast Food Nation is an experience, but not my favorite. But I love Waking Life. That rotoscope, that one that he does with Scanner Darkly as well. Really cool. Yeah, I figured School of Rock. That's I love that it showcases him working with a writer, Mike White, and then Linklater kind of does his own spin as far as directing. So yeah, I mean, I adore School of Rock. It's something I can put on. I never, how do you say it? I never don't want to watch School of Rock. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's one of those. I've always leaned towards Slacker is just unbelievable. Total micro budget, just it's just magic. This movie is just magic, and you can see when you watch it. It's also, I think, the very first Criterion I ever bought, DVD that I ever bought, and it was I don't know, in 2017 maybe, when I was starting to really, figure this stuff out for myself. Probably earlier than that when I got Slacker, because I saw Slacker when I kind of did that thing where I was like, okay, I need to see all of Linklater's movies. What am I doing? And I went back and watched Waking Life and Tape and those different movies, Suburbia, those ones that are just kind of a little under the radar. They're not quite Dazed, but they're still Linklater. And Slacker, I was like, oh, this is basically his directorial debut, and I mean, it just shows his career. It just shows what he's going to be doing for now 30 years, right? Linklater is now 60. He's almost 63 years old, and he's just created, 3 decades of excellent work, and it starts with Slacker, and I just love how you can see what's about to happen. And it's just a good movie, man. It's such an interesting idea. So I've always leaned towards that's probably my favorite. But fuck, man, I love Before Sunrise is my favorite of the trilogy. I just love that beginning. I love that chancy, I'm just gonna go for it. The Ethan Hawke character is fuck it. This is a once in a lifetime possible opportunity, and it is. We get 20 years of of love, hope, and trauma through that. I think Boyhood is just such a feat. While it's not my favorite Linklater, I just respect the hell out of it. School of Rock, Scanner Darkly. I think Last Like Flying is really underrated. I like Suburbia. I like Tape. I think his Bad News Bears remake is fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm obsessed. Of course, Dazed and Everybody Wants Some. Those are the ones that are kind of like a double feature together, and I love both of them. So it's very difficult for me to choose, but I probably go Slacker just because of the will, like the willpower to just make that movie, make it happen. And now when I watch it, I'm like, oh wow, you can see his whole career unfolding.
Slacker's just such a creative and I feel like hard to write concept where you just constantly pass the buck. Like there's no plot. It's just now we're here, now we're here, now we're over there, now we're with this guy, now we're that guy. And I've never seen anything like that before. Like in a film, I've seen it in like cartoons and shit, but I've never seen that in a movie. And I was very floored by that. I kept wondering like who's gonna get, who's got next.
Mm-hmm.
My
Yeah.
favorite one was the guy who was coming back from his stepdad's funeral and was like, fuck that guy.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great bit. I like the JFK like freak. I
Who
love
just
that
won't
guy.
shut up. Like the lady clearly wants to get out of that conversation, but he just keeps
Yeah,
going. I've met
yeah,
so
no,
many people like that.
yeah. I like the guy who just I can't remember. I used to like know their names because I used to be like head over heels for this movie a few years ago. I used to watch it like every couple months. Like I was so freaky about it. I haven't seen it in a while. There's one guy. I mean, I guess most of the characters just can't stop like going, and they're just speaking at such a crazy rate. Uh, it's the black guy who's giving out the t-shirts. I
Yeah.
love that guy. He cracked me up. Keep on keeping on, man. And it's like it created a language like that we see for the city of Austin, Texas. Like, and not only people who live in Texas like you and I, and we see it now how it's like affected and influenced the city itself 30 years later, but just the perspective people have all over the country for what Austin, Texas is, and it is that kind of like, yeah, man, like all right, man, and like all of Linklater's characters say man over and over, like right on, man, and like that's how I speak. That's how like some of my friends speak because this is where I'm from. I'm from Texas, and you either talk like a hick or you talk like a Linklater character, So it's one of those two.
That's hilarious. I'm from a small mountain town in Maryland, so I came here. I'm not not native, so I just kind of I've adopted some phrasing into my vernacular, but overall, like I just don't have that Texas loyalty that so many people have.
Yeah,
But I get it.
yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. I've got it coming through me, and there are times like she's from Atlanta, so there's some stuff that she says that's like whoa, that's like real Southern. But there's sometimes she'll catch me, and it's like who was that was just saying that? Like I sound like my grandpa or my uncle or whatever. And then of course the movies I watch and the Texans like Texan artists that I love. Linklater's at the top of that list, so yeah, this guy rules. So I love that. School of Rock definitely represents you as a Linklater fan and Slacker for me. So, but yeah, the guy rules. This somehow, some way, this is the first Linklater movie we've ever done on any podcast.
Yeah, because we pigeonholed ourselves into very specific lanes for quite some time, and like Linklater's movies didn't fit any of those. They weren't genre films, they weren't bad movies, and Boyhood's the only one with Oscar nominations. So it was like we didn't really have a lot of options here. But now that we've wised the fuck up and fixed things, sky's the limit. Whatever we want. This won't be the
Yeah.
last time we talk about Linklater, not by a long shot.
No, yeah, no way. So yeah, this just kind of opens the floodgates. But for when it comes to the 2010s, I just there's no movie that makes me like happier than Everybody Wants Some. So I had to include it on my list. Super happy to be able to talk about it. So Linklater, we'll be talking about him here in a second. But I do have one other question, and I think you'll have an interesting take on this. Why why are baseball movies the best sports team movies? Why is that? Like obviously, like boxing movies are great because it's solo, it's an individual thing. When it comes to team sport movies, like there's so many good baseball movies. What's up with that?
A good question. I think on some level, baseball is woven into the fabric of American society more than any other sport.
Yep.
It's, your your parents played it in the, like the Sandlot in the 60s. Your kids went out and when, nobody was watching them, and just on the, during the summer they played baseball. It just represents like a safe place we all used to wish we had, a baseball game. Even to people who don't give a fuck about baseball, there's something about a baseball game that just makes you happy. I don't know what like football pisses me off, but baseball, I don't know what it is. It's so delightful. It's fantastic. I mean, I think some of the greatest baseball movies ever made like reflect like the wholesome American values we all like to think this country has. Look, films like Field of Dreams and The Pride of the Yankees and The Sandlot to an extent. They represent exceptionalism in a way that no other sport really does, because it's a team effort. It's baseball, apple pie, all that nonsense, and we're left with something to strive for, I guess. It comes down to like some form of propaganda for sure. I'm just not qualified to express all of that right now.
Yeah, no, that's 100% right. I love that. I love the way you word at the beginning that baseball is kind of woven into the fabric of our country, and is definitely was looked at for the longest time as America's game. Now it's probably football, right? It's the NFL, like that, like football rules, especially here in Texas. But baseball is, it's just this like, it's like America's favorite pastime. I love all those little phrases, and I like loved baseball as a kid, and then when I was in my like late teenage years, my early 20s, I just gave up on it. And then a couple years ago, I got like back into it. Now I'm a bigger fan of baseball right now than I ever have been, and like huge Ranger fan now, and I'm having fun this season following them. But with the movies, dude, I mean, you listed a couple, like you got Bull Durham, great flick, A League of Their Own, Pride of the Yankees, Field of Dreams, 8 Men Out is sick, Moneyball, The Natural, Sandlot, Everybody Wants Some, Major League. I mean, the Bad News Bears, both the old and the new, like those both rock. I mean, like Moneyball is so fucking good, and so many people that I know that like it don't care about baseball at all, including you, Connor.
Well, it's funny. Like I've never cared about baseball. I never played it. I think I played it for like a day when I was like 6, and I remember I told my mom like I don't like this, and she was like, "All right, I guess you don't have to do it anymore." And but even then, The Sandlot was one of my all-time favorite movies. I still love that movie to death. That movie taught me what baseball was and how to play it.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like I don't have a football movie that I go to. Like I've seen Any Given Sunday. It's okay. Moving on.
I think a lot of football movies. I'll say this. I think baseball is the easiest to film as a sport. Like football action, basketball movies like fucking suck. So like a lot of basketball action is so hard because it's like so quick and has like such specific movements. Baseball, I watched Moneyball last night, and I was like, there's so many amazing shots of like real baseball, like the real footage of what happened in 2002, and then the actors doing their thing, and you can tell the difference, of course, but not by like a lot. Like when Chris Pratt is at first base as Scott Hatterberg, like you're not like, oh, that looks nothing like him. He doesn't look right playing first base. First base, like there's just a few movements that are involved. Whereas basketball is like, I mean, these guys are like 7 feet tall doing crazy shit. And football is the same thing. There's 22 guys on the field in football. It's hard to film all of that.
I wonder if on some level baseball is also like more relatable.
Yeah.
Because like, to play football, you got to be like a beefy big dude. To play basketball, you got to be freakishly tall. But I feel like anybody,
dude,
kind of play
we're
baseball.
Smalls. We can be Smalls, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
you can relate to a lot of the Sandlot characters.
I mean, look at one of the greatest baseball players of all time, Babe Ruth. That dude was an out of shape cigar chain smoker who was breaking records. I mean, I think that you don't have to. I'm not saying that like athletes who play baseball don't try that hard. I'm just saying if you're a regular dude and you need to play baseball on like a bet, you could probably win that bet.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of a relatable experience, watching baseball. There are still like kind of like chubby dudes out there, who can just fucking whack the ball. So
You
yeah,
don't see a
I
lot of
love that.
chubby athletes in a lot of sports.
No, you're not seeing chubby guys playing the World Cup. Yeah, that's for damn sure. I love that. That's great. So I do want to say before we move on, it's 2020. It's 2023. Sandlot came out 30 years ago. We got to do an episode on that this year. We like absolutely need to do a Sandlot episode. I've been thinking about it lately, and I'm like, oh, I mean, come on, like we'd be missing an opportunity here. A movie that's just been with us for our entire lives, and like you said, taught us about baseball, camaraderie, friendship. Just getting into trouble in the summer. So we got to do that movie, man.
I'm not gonna argue that. Yeah, I'm in.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, well, I love that. So talked a little Linklater, talk a little baseball. That's Linklater. You think about baseball when you think about Linklater because he puts it in a lot of his movies. Uh, let's talk about Everybody Wants Some and kind of how this movie came into existence and how it happened. He actually started writing this movie in 2005, so 11 years before it even came out. Just kind of he always talked about how you want to do a spiritual sequel to Dazed and Confused. And then when Boyhood came out, he wanted to do kind of a spiritual sequel to Boyhood. So with Dazed and Confused, it's 1976. You got the graduating, the juniors that are going to become seniors. They're like, oh, we're the kings of summer, and then you have the incoming freshmen. It's kind of about those two worlds and like them colliding. With Everybody Wants Some, you have a guy who's going into his freshman year of college in 1980. So it's like a 4-year gap right there, right? You could look at Mitch Kramer, sort of the main character of Dazed and Confused, the main kid, the freshman. He would be kind of the same age as this Jake character, Blake Jenner's character. So that's really neat. Obviously, they're different people, but it's kind of, like I said, spiritual sequel. With Boyhood, you have basically the same thing happening at the end of Boyhood that happens at the beginning of Everybody Wants Some. You have a kid moving out, going to school in West Texas, meets his roommates. They go and take some drugs and hang out at a fucking national park, state park. And then with Everybody Wants Some, you have a guy going to college out in what's supposed to be East Texas, and he goes out, meets his roommates, and gets into shenanigans, right? Like right away. So Linklater is very obsessed with this kind of non-linear, but also this connecting type thing that goes on with his movies, like same themes, but also like a different twist on it. And I love that about him. So the fact that he was writing this movie for so long and had it in his mind that he wanted to do something involving Dazed and Confused, but then was able to kind of warp it into this movie Everybody Wants Some is really cool. He went to Sam Houston State, played baseball there, dropped out his sophomore year. That's in Huntsville, Texas, by the way, which is not really a place you want to visit, but it does have a university there called Sam Houston State, and Linklater once upon a time played baseball there for a couple of years. So he actually finished his sophomore year, didn't really drop out, but he didn't go back for his junior year. Instead, he worked on an oil rig in East Texas. Did that for a couple of years, became completely obsessed with movies during that time. That's when he said he would work. He was like, I was making a ton of money, just saving up from like age 20 to 22. He was saving up tons of money. He would drive from his job because he would work like 2 days and then have like 10 days off, right? And he would go to Houston, go to different, art house, screenings and whatnot during the early 80s. And he just became obsessed. And he said his goal was to see thousands of films before he thought about making a film of his own. I love that. I love that about him. So he did that for about 10 years. During that 10-year span, he, worked on, trying to become a master with his camera, become a master at writing characters and watching characters unfold in front of him. He started the Austin Film Society with some buddies. That was like in 1985. So at that point, he's 24 years old, and he's starting this film society in this this city that has now exploded, and film is a big part of like why it exists. And he's at the forefront. He still does this. He still does the Austin Film Society. He still screens movies. He'll do weeks of, and I'm so like upset I haven't been there more often. I've only been once to like a screening at the AFS, but he'll do like 10 movies by the same director from like the 50s, just because he wants to. And he says he's like it's an ultimate greed project where I want to see these movies, so I'm going to screen them. Whoever wants to show up can. And I'm seeing that I want to do them for myself. Like I want to attain them. I want to show them. directors like Steven Soderbergh, Quentin Tarantino have helped fund some of the stuff that he's done with the Austin Film Society, have showed up to screenings. Quentin Tarantino has he of course he has the New Beverly Cinema in Los Angeles. He's lent Linklater films. Imagine that conversation. Tarantino and Linklater hanging out talking about what 50s movies they're going to show in Austin, throughout the week. So very cool that he started doing that in the 80s and it still exists today. Just shows how much passion he has for this stuff. We got to go there, man. Connor, me and you got to go there together, dude. We got to go see an old movie. I was looking at the schedule for the next couple months, and there's some stuff. So let's talk about it. For this movie, everybody wants some. You can see obviously the Dazed and Confused stuff, but you can also see, if you're a fan of the movie Animal House, you can see a lot of that movie inside of this. And so Linklater invited the entire cast out to his ranch in Austin. They hung out for a few weeks, watched movies like Animal House, old 70s and 80s, raunchy, crazy, like frat comedies, and hung out and rehearsed some of the script together. And he let the actors, guys like Glenn Powell, kind of write their own shit, figure out their own, spin on their characters. So very cool. Obviously an experience that they probably will never forget, and they'll take with them wherever they go. Filming took place October 2015 to December 2015. So just a few months there, all over the state of Texas. Connor already mentioned San Marcos. Texas State is kind of the hub of this. A lot of the school stuff is also in Waymar, Texas. You got Bastrop, Texas, Elgin, Texas, Taylor, Texas, and of course, good old San Antonio. So pretty cool. They're just kind of, gallivanting all over the state to make this movie happen, because of, permits and whatnot. The budget was, $5 million. So, or 5 to 10. They don't, there's not like an exact estimate. It's not crazy expensive, but they spent enough to get what they wanted to do. It didn't do too hot, made a little under $5 million at the box office, but I'd say it's already become a cult classic. Really cool. Came out March of 2016 officially all over the United States. And yeah, even though not a lot of people saw it, the people who have, they understand.
I was on campus when Linklater was filming this.
So cool.
I didn't know. I saw a big to-do happening, and I was like, oh, that's neat. I thought it was some bullshit that I didn't need to know about. I also had class, so I had to go. And, I had 2 classes back to back. I went to one class and I went to the other class. And the second class was my film class. And Dr. McClancy walked in and said, hey, did y'all know that Richard Linklater was here filming a movie? And I'm like, what? What do you mean was here? Like, he's gone? Nobody said anything? I was so disappointed in myself that I didn't go check out the what have you. I was like, I could have seen movie magic. Goddamn. It's one of my biggest regrets in life is not checking that out.
Yeah, you were a good kid instead of
like, I got shit to do, and 9 times out of 10 when there's something happening on campus, it's ridiculous shit I don't care about.
Yeah. How could you know?
The one time it mattered, I didn't do anything.
Oh, that's so good. I love that. Sorry, man, but hey, you have a story to tell, right?
Yeah.
Your teacher came in and was just like, "Hey, did you know that Rick, that old Rick Linklater is doing a movie?" Yeah, and that's kind of what he does, right? He still refuses to live in Hollywood and do the Hollywood thing. Like, he still refuses to do that. He still lives in Texas, wants to make movies either in Texas or kind of, more realistic settings that aren't just always these like LA based or Hollywood based movies. While I love those, I also have an admiration for like what Linklater's trying to do.
I love stories about just, people and their shit sometimes. I love the idea of like a world that's unattainable can be fun sometimes, but sometimes you also just want to see, people get into dumb shit shenanigans in Texas. And we're going to need a guy to give us those stories.
Yeah. And yeah, I love that because you know me, I'm very much trying to find like stuff that's going to like basically break me, and hit me like a wave. And while Linklater does that, he manages to do it in a way that doesn't quite pulverize me. Like, he doesn't, even in Everybody Wants Some, I'll be laughing my ass off. But then in the back of my head, I'm like, oh wow, that's like such an interesting point. Like he has that ability to kind of break through you like philosophically, but also just make you laugh at the same time, which is kind of what we do as humans, right? So I love his like vulnerability, but also his willingness to entertain you. You know, like his movies, a lot of people are like, oh, nothing really happens. Like, sure, but they're still fun. So there's like skill and talent in some of the scenes that he shoots. In the wrong hands would be trash. Would be like terrible. Like Slacker could be so bad in the wrong hands, but because it's him and like the vulnerability and the humor and all of that stuff is right there on the table.
Well, I bet there's also a degree of like almost trying to trick you into finding the message, because there's people who are going to watch, Days of Confused and Everybody Wants Some just so they can watch, haha, he fell down. Oh, look, they're going to get laid. But then while
Yeah.
they're watching it, they might subconsciously absorb that message and
Yes.
take it with them, even if they didn't want to.
Correct. That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes to get somebody's attention, you got to fall down in front of them.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I'm so glad you watched Bernie, because I also rewatched Bernie. I hadn't seen it in a long time. And that's like a Coen movie. That's like a Coen Bros like comedy, like dark comedy, a crime in the middle of it, just crazy kind of fallout. Really good actors that Jack Black's going with. Shirley MacLaine and Matthew McConaughey, it manages to just like teach you lesson upon lesson while also being like really funny. So I love that movie. I'm really glad you got to see it.
Well, I read in the trivia on Everybody Wants Some, the real Bernie was on set. He helped with the production. He was the cat wrangler.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
During his brief parole before he got thrown back in prison.
Yeah, whenever Linklater meets somebody, they are no longer a stranger. He's one of those guys, and he has this insane memory, because I've watched so many interviews with him and so many, I've read so much about him. I suggest definitely there's one interview right now that's like real high quality, that's from a couple years ago, that he does with Peter Becker, the president of Criterion. It came out in 2021, and I remember watching it back when that was around when I first got Criterion as a service. And Linklater does this kind of like 20-minute interview or whatever, and it's so good, because he goes through a lot of the Austin Film Society stuff and just his passion, and the way he's talking to Peter is like, immediately after 2 minutes, it's like, all right, we're friends. I've got you. I'm here, and I'm like so present that you and I have become friends within seconds. This was the first time they've ever like actually sat down and talked, and had a conversation. But you feel like Linklater, it's like his cousin or something. It's really, really wild how he has that effect. And anytime people can go check that out on Criterion, and he always has stuff on Criterion. Linklater is like one of their people. He's just a guy who has kind of gone to bat for cinema, and so that's what they do. So of course, like, it works in tandem. So I highly suggest that. Just always listening to Linklater talk is going to make you like his movies more.
You're right. You're right. And I love that kind of passion. So few filmmakers have a love for it that they can keep hold of throughout their career. A lot of guys start out like that, but they get jaded real quick by the machine. Linklater still has that optimism, that hope. And I hope he never loses it. I think if he hasn't at this point, he never will.
Yeah, well, it's kind of in the work.
Yeah.
I mean, he made a movie. I don't know if you've seen that one with Kate Blanchett. Where'd You Go, Bernadette? I don't know if you've seen that movie, but it's like, I like it. It's not his best work or anything, but it just kind of shows he's just willing to try shit. He's like, fuck it, like, I'm gonna have fun, and like, this may not be the Oscar-worthy movie that they want me to make next, because I'm the guy who did Boyhood, but I want to make it. Like, he follows up Boyhood with Everybody Wants Some. The most, it's like the most kind of like 180 style of film from this really carefully constructed story about a boy, over 12 years, to this nasty, raunchy, really inappropriate, like late teen, early 20s, college movie that's, on the same level as like some of the classics, right? Like, it has like that American Pie feel to it, where you're just like, should I be watching this? And I love that about him. I love that he just like doesn't give a fuck about what people are going to say. He just kind of does it, and the work speaks for itself.
Yeah, not a lot of people have that. While you're here, while we're here, where do you fall on the Bernie thing? Like, how do you feel about how all that went down?
Yeah, let's talk about it. Fuck it. You know, I, when I first saw the movie, I was just like, I was really mixed, and I was like, huh, shit, he did kind of kill somebody, but but then I like looked into it more. I looked into like the real story, the manipulation tactics, and the almost like imprisonment of Bernie, and I kind of was like, that's a little bit of self defense. So I don't know, man. Like it's such a gray situation. It's not black and white. I can see obviously by definition like he shouldn't have done what he did, but also there is like a self defense argument there.
I think that at the very least, first degree murder was a bit much. I think
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
second degree murder at worst, manslaughter at best.
Mm.
Plus,
Yeah.
I love the idea that like the town hated her so much and loved him so much that they were pretty much just like, it's a pass. Like that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
I hope one day I am that well liked.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. That movie's great. Talk about super Texan. They actually get real people from Carthage
Yeah.
to talk. One of my favorite scenes from any Linklater movie is when the gentleman who's I believe at that barbecue joint is talking about the different like parts of the state, and he's like, you got your West Texas with your flat ranches. You got your North Texas up in Dallas driving their Mercedes. It's like, and then he talks about he's like Central Texas. You got Austin. You got them damn liberals. You don't want to go there. He's like, and then you got San Antonio where the Tex meets the Mex. it's such it's such a fucking Texan scene, and like only Linklater I feel like could have done that.
I love when he mentions like, and then I know I left out the panhandle, but we don't really talk about that, and then just move on.
Yeah, just fuck it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, McConaughey's great in that. Shirley's great. That movie rules. It's one of his most underrated films. So if you have a chance to see it, if you're listening, definitely check it out. Yeah, man, I would love to do an episode on that one day, just to dive into it and figure out exactly what we feel about the story. But yeah, man, this is the power of Linklater. He's the fucking man. I'm really bummed about some of these scores. Like for Everybody Wants Some, IMDb score. For a lot of his movies, the IMDb score is just like, come on, like he's not trying to make Citizen Kane here. Just have some fun. So the score for Everybody Wants Some is 6.9 on IMDb. Not great, but 87% Rotten Tomatoes, not bad. And then a 3.6 on Letterboxd. We'll talk about Letterboxd later on at the end of the show. Super exciting. Also very unfortunate that Everybody Wants Some is not streaming anywhere right now. Really, really disappointing. So if you want to watch it, you're gonna have to probably rent it, find a way to buy it. And that sucks, but it's been around. I remember it was on Hulu for a long fucking time after it came out. And I don't know like what happened to the rights or whatever, but I'm sure it'll pop back up. I feel like if Everybody Wants Some just got the chance on Netflix, I think it would do really well there. I think now, in hindsight, with some of the actors, especially Glenn Powell, that have like this stardom behind them, like, oh, there's the hot guy from Top Gun. You could kind of use that. I feel like it would do really well on Netflix, like now, 7 years later after it came out. But I wanted to get that chance, man. I want this movie. It still hasn't quite reached the fame that I feel like it deserves. Dazed took a minute, but it took maybe a couple years for Dazed to really catch on because of video stores. People would rent it over and over and over and be like, oh my god, this is just like one of the greatest stoner movies of all time. Everybody Wants Some. It just didn't quite have that path, and that's unfortunate. But all the more reason for us to do an episode on it, right, and talk about it. So, without further ado, I'd like to take a little break for a minute and then get into some awards and really talk about what we love about Everybody Wants Some. Welcome back. Before we get into the awards here, we're bringing on Adam. He's here with us to talk about this movie that I think he likes almost as much as I do. How you doing, Adam?
I'm doing well, doing well. Sorry that I'm late to the party. I was coming from indeed a party, if you will.
Yeah.
So I caught the last bit of what you guys have been talking about before the break. And yeah, super excited to talk about this movie. I have so many thoughts as like a person who has coached basketball for a really long time and coached various teams of different sports. There's a lot of team dynamic stuff that I'm excited to talk about, and also it's just a very fun, enjoyable movie. So yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah, I said at the beginning of the show when you weren't with us at the beginning, I said not here for a long time, here for a good time.
Here for a good time. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Thanks,
As a,
Wyatt Russell. Yeah. So yeah, I'm stoked to really dive into this stuff because we've kind of stayed away from some soundtrack stuff. We stayed away from the cast a little bit. I didn't want to dive into it because I wanted this to be
appreciate it. Appreciate
totally
it.
organic. I wanted to kind of avoid all that, talk more about Linklater and his career at large and baseball movies for sure. So let's get into this thing. Connor, I want to start with you for the Tarantino. So we'll go Connor, Adam, myself. We'll start with the Tarantino, go to the Thomas Newman, go to the Philip Seymour Hoffman, go to the John Carpenter, finish it off, and then later on we'll do what's in the box. So Connor, what is your favorite quote from this movie?
Well, I intended to go with some kind of existential line about life and what it means. But then early on in the movie, I found myself cackling at a certain line from Mr. Tyrone Plummer.
Oh,
I hate waterbeds too. And his description of a waterbed had me dying. He says, "Man, you can't even fuck good on a waterbed. It's like having sex with a girl on top of another really fat girl." You know what I mean? I paused and was just like falling apart.
the note I mean is the best.
Yeah.
Like,
You know what I mean?
It's okay. Great pick. It's the first fucking thing that Jake hears out of this guy's mouth.
That's the first impression. Yeah. Perfect.
And that's Linklater's greatest skill is character introduction. Like he is so good at putting you where you need to be. We touched on the beginning when you see Jake walk into the house and you have Roper and McReynolds right there, just obviously the two like douchebags of the team, the two like major jocks on a team full of jocks, and they are like in a different stratosphere. But then you go upstairs and you see Plummer, you see Willoughby, who's just like reading this giant book, and then you have fucking Glenn Powell. You got Finn like playing mini golf, and they're having this philosophical talk about a waterbed. It's truly like such a great scene to have in the first like 5 to 10 minutes of your movie. So great pick, Plummer. I mean, like where'd they find this guy? He is really good in this movie. Really underrated. I like love that character. I love the actor's name is Temple Baker. I love such a Texan name. I love when he's like drunk after they go like to the Jolly Fox or whatever, and they're at like the team meeting, and the coach is like, "Stand up, Ty."
yes. He can't even stand up.
He's like, "Come on, son."
It's like the middle of the afternoon.
Because the other kid, Brumley, the other freshman, is like, "Hey guys," and Plummer, "Come on, son, get on your feet." Oh yeah, great pick, Connor. I did not think anybody would go with that, so I love that you chose that because it also it makes me laugh like a damn hyena. So I love that pick, man. Adam, where are you going?
Okay, well, I started to freak out because when he said Plumber, I was like, no, he took mine because I have another one for him that just like I also had to pause it. I was like, what did he just say?
Is it the cat? Is it the cat?
No. So
what was it?
It's the scene. Yes. It's the scene with Buter.
Buter.
He's gonna leave to go like see his girlfriend or whatever, and they're like joking about like her being a day late, like, oh, you're gonna have a kid and stuff. And Plumber like doesn't say anything for a while, and then like there's like this little lull, and he just goes, $300 and a kid, man, your life's gonna fucking suck. I lost it when I was watching.
And he's like holding a beer. He's holding a beer and like does that point like, man, your life's gonna fucking suck. Oh man, yeah. Plummer is so good in this movie. I love when they're at the Fox and he they just got there and he like gets out of his chair and is like stumbling. Oh man, yeah.
No, those two. Yeah, I'm so glad we picked multiple ones from him because like that actor, he's fine. I mean, he does his job. You know, it's like clearly he's not going to go on to be Glenn Powell. You know,
Yeah.
but he's so funny. I mean, he has 4 or 5 lines. You're just like, wow, that's perfect. And we all know a guy like that. Like
Oh
anyone who's
yeah.
ever been on an esports team, or been in any part of friend group, we have a guy like that. You just look at him, you're just like, dude, what? Like, it's like, what did you just say? Or like, what? He's just the guy who says like the most random stuff, and he's like there's a scene later in the movie where he's like, you know, I know what we're doing here. We're like, what are they doing here? Like, who are all
Yes,
these people?
I'm gonna be talking about that later. I love that bit. Yeah.
So funny. So anyway, Austin, yeah, go ahead and give us yours.
Yeah.
Yeah,
God,
he's hilarious.
he also has. I would love to see him be in more stuff, but yeah, I mean, he's definitely not Glenn Powell. He has that bit during batting practice with Jay Niles, and Jay Niles is throwing like 90, and Plummer's like, "Fuck this shit, man." And he's like, "I'm out of here. Like, I don't want to be doing this shit." He's just his timing is so good, and his stuff with Brumley, like the way Jake and Jake and Plummer are also like, Brumley, like why are you so fucking desperate, dude? It's such a good bit. So I love that y'all both picked Plummer. I'm excited. I went kind of typical. I went with a line from Finnegan from Glenn Powell's character. He's just lights out in this movie. It's when they're at the party, and he's getting quite frustrated because they go to this theater party towards the end of the movie, and they're around like a bunch of really unique and different kind of people, right? And there's a lot of women there, a lot of women at this party. And Finnegan is like, okay, well, I'm gonna like meet them where they're at so I can get laid. Like that's the whole like point of Finnegan's life. It's like meet the girl where she's at and like seal the deal. Like that's his whole shtick. And he uses all this, technical jargon to like get there. And then they mess up something for him. Dale, who's also great in this movie. Dale and Jake and Coma. I love Coma in this movie. They're all like messing it up for him while he's trying to like hang out with this like really beautiful girl who's also in Boyhood. She's the girl at the end of Boyhood, and she's at this theater party. And finally they mess it up for him, and he's like walking away, and he looks back at them, and he's wearing this like Abraham Lincoln top hat, and he goes, "Have you guys ever noticed whenever we're around baseball, all we talk about is pussy? Now we're actually around a few potentially interesting young women, and all you do is talk about baseball. It's a little fucked up."
And the rest of the team does a little like that. Yes. So good. Yeah, that scene is great.
Oh man, yeah, it's a little fucked up. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Glenn Powell has so many lines in this movie that are just like, wow, like this is a once in a lifetime character. So yeah, I love his stuff. But yeah, so we got 2 Plumbers and 1 Finnegan. But there's so much. Jay Niles like gets me. Like I laugh so hard. Anything he does, like, I'm fucking raw dog. I'll come over there and show you a fucking good time. Like all that. I'm too philosophical for this shit. Like I love his character so much. Practice like you play, man. I love all that stuff. So it was really difficult to choose this one. But the next award to me is the most difficult because this movie is so reliant on the music of its time. Transitioning from the late 70s to the early 80s. Like Linklater, so good at this. He's so good at needle drops, so good at picking songs to match scenes to where it then affects our lives, right? Where we apply certain songs to this moment when you saw this movie for the first time. And that's like so powerful. So the Thomas Newman Award for best music moment, if you will. In this case, it's best needle drop, really. Is going to be very difficult. So, Adam, what'd you go with? Or Connor, start with you.
Well, like you said, this is a fantastic soundtrack. Thought it was very creative, starting with My Sharona by The Knack, which as a song really kind of represents the transition of musical styles from the 70s to the 80s, and this movie doing the same thing. Yep. Very nice. But I went with the scene where they're all singing Rapper's Delight by the Sugar Hill Gang together. Because it was such like that is the ultimate team building exercise is singing that song to get like you can tell like they do this all the time. They've been hanging out for a long time. They're a unit, just without any like hesitation or screw up in the lyrics, just rapping out Rapper's Delight as they're driving through this Texas town. I thought that was just perfect.
Yeah, it's money, dude. It's really cool because you have Finnegan and Roper and Dale, who are clearly very close, like very close, and understand each other really well. And they're like, all right, we're gonna go hang out, we're gonna drink, we're gonna do this stuff together. And they bring along Plum and Jake. It's kind of like their initiation in a way, right? It's such a like well-crafted scene. And I love that, Dale is kind of rapping to them too. Like, are you gonna rap with me, or are you just gonna like watch me and be kind of like the scared freshman? And like they both kind of step up, right? It's a really, really cool scene. And that song is so sick. Connor, Adam and I, our dad, he had this friend named Randy. Well, he's still around. They just don't hang out as much as they used to when we were younger. But he's kind of like an uncle. Randy could do Rapper's Delight like it was nothing, and he would do it at like events and stuff. Like if people were hanging out like at some kind of like family function or whatever, he would just like break into it and just do like the whole song, dude. It was so sick. So that was like my introduction to the song. And now when I watch Everybody Wants Some, I always think of Randy because Randy would have been 18, 19 years old in 1980, same as our dad. So I always am like, oh, I bet they did that when they were that age.
They graduated high school together in 1980. Yeah.
Yeah. So pretty special, right? Yeah. So I love that you chose that.
No, that's a good one. Yeah. There's so many to choose from. So I went with the pinball and like arcade scene. When we get Heart of Glass by Blondie. It's an all-time classic song. But kind of just starts kind of pumping in the background. You kind of see, and they're all just like they're in that kind of like down period of like, oh, we don't really have much to do today. Let's just like go play this and just kind of chill out for a little bit and continue to compete, which is a theme I'll get to here in a little bit. But that one hits home for me. There's so many to choose from. But I want to give a shout out to Blondie in her classic Heart of Glass, their classic, I should say. I would say her, like it's just she stands out so much more than like the band itself. So I would say her, but their classic.
Yeah, for Blondie. I love that scene because they're always on. They're never not competing. I love when Willoughby says, Mac, I was supposed to be having fun, and I'm not having fun right now. And then Finn and Comer are like, you can't, this is 3 years right here. This is 3 years of chemistry. It's such a cool bit. And then you have the whole thing with Jake playing the like asteroid game and showing him like the gap. He's like, oh, it sounds like two suckers who haven't figured out the gap method. It's such a good scene because even when they're off like in spare time doing their own thing, they still are like uber competitive. So love that pick as well. You know where I'm going with this, Pink Floyd. I have to choose Pink Floyd. Fearless. The smoking scene is Jesus Christ is like when I first saw this in theaters, I was like, oh my God. Like I felt seen, I felt heard, I felt like really a part of this scene when it could have gone off the rails so fast. In the wrong hands, this scene could just be so shitty. But I don't know. Linklater has a way of kind of like honing it in and making it somehow real, but also like fantastical. So I love this scene so much. I love that song anyway. 1971, Pink Floyd. I love the band itself, and I love the little connection. Linklater has talked about the little connections that connect Dazed and Everybody Wants Some. And of course, one of the main characters of Dazed and Confused is Randy Pink Floyd, and he wanted to choose a Pink Floyd song for the smoking scene because Pink is a stoner and Dazed and Confused. So I love that. Love that he chose this song in particular. If you're a Liverpool fan, I'm sure you love it as well. And I think that scene is so special. From the, you got to tune in, man. It's about the space between the notes. Wyatt Russell really there is he's kind of out acting everybody. It almost feels like he's in a different league than the rest of the people. It's like, oh, that's like his dad must have been pretty good. He has something in him that's like, oh wow, he's just in a league of his own in certain stretches and kind of in his own movie. That's kind of the point, right? Because he's 30. He is in a league of his own. He is in a different place. The way he's talking to them is like not like a teammate. It's like an older brother, So I love that scene. I love how it like gets kind of serious the way when he's talking about, you know, like, yeah, man, you do like Van Halen, you know, because corporate America's trying to shove it down your throat. I love that, but I also love when like Plum says like, fuck, I wish I had a tail. You know, like I love how like Linklater can like bring it back down, you know, like this is how people react to things. Like comedy and laughing is like a defense mechanism for like when you don't really want to go somewhere that you don't want to go socially. So I just think the scene has it all. Like it has Linklater's best stuff in this scene. It has the potheads, has the kind of philosophical stuff, has the references to pop culture with the Twilight Zone shit. So yeah, I just think it's brilliant.
Yeah, that's a pretty good scene. I also think it's cool. I found out that Wyatt Russell's grandfather was a frequent flyer in the Twilight Zone.
There you go. There you go.
Nice little connection there. But yeah, you know, you're gonna have you can't have a movie about essentially nothing and not have the, you know, essential stoner advice scenes.
Yeah.
It's got to be there.
Yeah, and also I like your point about him being like an older brother rather than because he is, and I related to that, you know, hardcore. Not that I like with like players I coach, I have like smoking scenes like that, but I have that kind of like relationship with a lot of players I coach, and especially ones that like are no longer like playing for me anymore, but like it can be a little bit different. It can be a little bit closer, right? I have a lot of that, like where there's these moments where it's like, okay, I can talk about something that they just haven't gone through yet, or whatever it may be, you know, or I can show them something that like, hey, this is something I discovered when I was college age, like y'all should check it out, you know, whether it's a music, movies, whatever it may be. So I related to that scene hardcore and to his character in general, because it's like, you know, I've been coaching basketball. It's a kid's game, right? It's like I've done it my whole life, and it's like there are moments where I'm like, I'm just like doing a kid's game, but then it's for moments like that where you can kind of go beyond just like coaching basketball and like really get to kind of know somebody on a deeper level through the game of basketball that like reminds you of like why I do it. So that scene is great, and obviously, you know, it's just like at peace with Wyatt Russell and his whole like vibe and everything like that. And you know, also we talked briefly last night about the movie. We didn't want to talk too much because it was like you want to save it for the podcast, but Wyatt Russell is just so good in this role that it's almost good that he's not in a ton of it, because it's like he's like so clearly kind of like the best actor probably in the movie. So he almost would like it makes sense with his character that he kind of just like kind of float in and out of like different scenes and different parts of the movie rather than just like be the main hub of it. I think that was a really smart choice.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love the way he's used. I think that's like a perfect balance. So I love the first night when they're all partying and they go back to the house and like all the guys are like getting laid, and that, you know, they're like trying to go to like that downstairs room, but Finn is like taking it, and so they're like, oh well, fuck it, we're going upstairs. I love when Plum takes his girl to his room and he rooms with Willoughby, with Wyatt Russell's character, and Wyatt Russell is naked, like doing yoga, and he's like, strike three.
Like visualizing,
Plum, yeah. And Plum just looks at the girl and is like, let's get out of here. I'm not gonna bother whatever the fuck is going on right there, you know. It's such a good bit. And then Willoughby also has one of my favorite scenes when he explains like, and Linklater again like explains stuff that he's passionate about in a way that like anybody can connect with. And so he kind of explains a lot of like what baseball is through this scene when they're playing pool. Wyatt Russell and Blake Jenner's character Jake, they're playing pool together, and Jake's like, man, like nobody really likes pitchers on this team, and he's like, well, yeah, man, we're fucking weird. You know, he's like, we you know, he like has the pool stick, and he's like, you got to embrace your inner weird, man. You know, and he's like, and when you do that, you bring who you are to the mound and not who they want. He's like, and that's when it gets fun. And it's like, wow, that explains pitching. So when you watch a pitcher in a real MLB game, they are this like weird, like idiosyncratic like being. Like they have like little things they do with their glove, or like they do something with their fingers, or whatever it is. The way they hold the ball, the way they tilt their hat is like, it's all like an individual thing, and it's the most important part of the sport. Without pitching, you don't have baseball. So it's like such a cool scene that Linklater has this stoner weirdo guy that's 30 explain what pitching is to us without it being like, this is boring. Like if you don't care about baseball, it's like, I don't give a fuck, you know? If you're anybody, you're like, well, I'm listening to Wyatt Russell explain, you know, like why pitchers are so strange and why they're so like individualistic, you know? So I think he's just brilliant in this movie. And I really thought about him for the next award. You know, I really thought about him for the Philip Seymour Hoffman Award. I was like, man, Wyatt Russell's so good in this movie, but I went a different route. but I want to hear you guys first. Connor, what'd you go with?
Well, real quick, just to piggyback off of that,
Yeah,
the way he explains pitching, you can apply that to anything in your life. You can apply that to, like our film journey. We're not just watching what everyone wants us to watch. We're watching our own shit and we're carving out our own niche thoughts on this stuff. So it's relatable to whatever you can relate it to.
correct.
And that's smart writing. That is brilliant writing.
Yeah, that's the power of Richard fucking Linklater. Yeah.
For performance, I gave this to Glenn Powell.
Yep.
He's
hands down. Like hands down. Yeah.
I just love the guy who has no scruples, who is not trying to act like anything more than a dude trying to get laid. It's just, the primary function. And I like that. I like his, his approach, like the conversation where Dale's like, look, he's talking about his dick. Like, and he's talking about how not huge he is, and he's selling
average it is. Yeah.
And it's like, wow. Like, just his strategies are magnetic and hilarious, and his approach is just ridiculous. Like, after he fucks and he's like, I think the Astros are going to make it to the World Series.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great touch. Yeah, and he's clearly a smart guy. Like, he's clearly, he's clearly a bright dude. Like, there's one scene where he's reading Kerouac, and it's like, okay, like, he's clearly like a well-read, like, he's like smoking a pipe at different points. Like, he fancies himself like this like old soul, which in some ways he is, but in some ways he's like a total rascal. You know what I mean? Like, he's just like a classic, like just like, yeah, whatever works. But yeah, it's the honesty, which is why it's like you can almost like respect it, because it's like, yeah, I mean, like, it is what it is. He's like, I'm doing exactly what it takes, whatever. And he does seem like he genuinely enjoys the company of like new people and like different types of experiences and like that. So yeah, it's like he's cool. I mean, yeah, again, also is a bit of a dog, but hey, that's what he was at that time. So yeah, I thought he's phenomenal. I did not give it to him because I knew y'all would. I mean, probably would. So Austin, is that who you gave it to as well?
Oh, I don't think it's close.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's like that's who I would give it to, but just for the sake of conversation, I actually wanted to give it to Tyler. I think it's Hoechlin, or Hoechlin. However,
I don't.
Hecklin.
Yeah. So I wanted to give it to him, because he is like incredibly important part of the movie, because he shows like I like how seriously he takes it, but can still like obviously mess around and be there. He's like the perfect kind of leader of a team like that, where he's like clearly the best player, the most talented player.
Yeah.
Like, and every team needs that guy. He's the guy who's like, hey, like while we're here, like we're gonna take this seriously. Like we're gonna actually like try to be good. Like, so the coach like leaves and he said, we say they're voluntary practices, but they're mandatory practices. Like, if you're on this team, you're trying to win. Like, we all care here. And it's his force of personality that drives that team. And I think it's really important for that guy to be this likable guy at some points, a super competitive guy at some points, and also just like really good at baseball. So and have the ability to kind of like get people to rally around him. Like, every team needs that person so badly, and I think he plays that role really well. I didn't read much about him. I'm sure he must have played baseball, because like he looks incredibly convincing as a baseball player. Yeah,
he did.
Yeah, also I think your point earlier, y'all were talking before I got on about like different sports movies and how like you can kind of tell like the action is like, man, this guy like just can't play or whatever, especially in basketball. It's just like so obvious, like when someone
but
like baseball too, like you can tell if somebody's like not that good, or like they just don't really know how to throw, but like just the way he moves around the pitch and like the double that he hits, like the way he turns like first base and slides and pops up into second, it's like, okay, this guy definitely played. Like and just the swing in general, I mean, he's got this like perfect swing. But yeah, and it's like he's able to shit talk and always back it up. Like he is like, yeah, the super competitive like leader guy, and I think he plays that role really well. I think he holds the movie together at different points when it's like, okay, if it's constantly just about how much of a goofball they are, it's like, that's actually not that interesting of a movie. Like, you need the kind of goofball qualities plus the like, hey, we're here for a reason, that we're competitive. Like, the reason we're here is because we are competitive and the best in our like we were the best in our little worlds, and now we're all trying to be the best here. That I don't think the movie works without that side of it, or else it's just kind of like almost like a just screw around movie, which I don't think is as interesting.
I agree 100%. I love that you chose him just to kind of counter the Glenn Powell thing. And you can talk about Glenn Powell all day. The guy's going to have a long career. He's incredible.
Yeah.
But Tyler in this movie, there's specific moments that I think that you're alluding to. Like, for me, where the movie could turn and get maybe stale, he does something so douchey and so macho that you're like, oh, there's the standard. Like, that he sets the standard of excellence. The ping pong game, for example, when he almost takes Jake's head off. So it's like you need that to win. Like, you need that. And he says the whole like voluntary means mandatory. I think a lot of I think like huge percentage of people are just like, oh, fucking try hard. But like, in my opinion, and I know Adam, in your opinion, like, oh, I agree with that. Like, I agree with that. I think like dedication is very important to like achieving stuff. And I love when he says, because if you don't want to be there on Sunday, that probably means you don't want to beat those fuckers from Arizona. And if you don't want to do that, you might as well get lost.
Yeah.
You like, sure, we're all individuals here, but we're all here because we got a scholarship to play baseball. And if you don't want to like be the best team in the country, then like, what are you doing? Like, what are we doing? If we're not striving for that, if we're not striving to be the best in the, slate that we're in, then like, what are we doing? And he does that the whole movie. Even when they go out, there's like the scuffle between the bartender and Niles, and McReynolds is like, oh, I want to get up and go like have a say or whatever, because it's like that tribal thing.
They stop him.
And Roper is like, not you.
Yes.
He's like, you got drafted, like not you, buddy.
You have the most to lose here. Yeah.
Yeah. He sits him down. And then there's another scene where it's kind of like the lull at the, every morning they're just kind of like fucking around doing their thing. And to me, my favorite bit from those scenes, you got like the basketball scene, you got them like fucking around playing bloody knuckles. My favorite bit is when he splits the baseball with the axe. Yeah. And Nez, Austin Emilio is awesome in this movie as Nez. I think that scene is like, he's so good in that because it's like impossible. Like, it's not like, I mean, come on, like if like splitting the ball with an axe, like in mid swing, like it's just this incredible thing. And he's like, how much you want to bet? And Nez is like, no, triple it. He's like, this is gonna be and then he says I almost chose this for my Tarantino. He says one of my favorite lines in the movie is, this will be the best day of my life until tomorrow.
Yeah. No, that scene is so good because it shows his personality perfectly. Because it's like, he's the guy who they all know he's the best player. They all Roper, who's clearly very good. Yeah. And has like a say is like, I mean, this guy's like, this is lights out. Yeah. And I think that scene is so smart about them holding him back in the fight. Because it's like teams like that, like, no, and even like groups of people, like, you hear stories about like guys who grew up in like really rough neighborhoods. Like when they're the ones who are really talented, people in those neighborhoods protected that one because like, no, you have a chance to actually get out of here. You know what I mean? Like, you've got a chance to actually like we're like, don't get involved in this kind of side bullshit. Like, let us do that. Like, you actually have a future here. Like that little, just like, it's like a 5-second moment is like so smart. And it's clearly written by somebody who played on a baseball game. It's obvious. Like he doesn't, no one writes that just off the top of their head. You have to be on a team and like be in a group like that understands that. But yeah, he knows how to talk shit constantly, but always backs it up and clearly has this like almost like reverence among the team. He knows it, but he doesn't lord it over them too much. Like he'll remind you that he's the best player on the team when he needs to, like in the batting cage scene when he starts to go at the raw dog. But he doesn't like lord it over. Like he does, I think, want to kind of welcome people in. Like
he reels him back. He reels Jay Niles back because he's like, do what you do best. Keep talking. You get your teammates in a fucking fight. That's fucking selfish.
Yes.
Like he's the one saying that. No one else calls out Niles. Only he does. Like, dude, you got to fucking calm down, man. Like it's about he says it's about the team here. I love those touches. So it's a great pick. I think it's between Glenn Powell, Wyatt Russell, and Tyler. They're like clearly head and shoulders. And then honestly, my other pick would be Zoe Deutsch. I think she's just incredible.
She's good.
She's really good. Not quite in it enough, but those three guys are like, I mean, I could see them having like really cool careers, right? They just have like a lot of talent, and it shows through this movie. But everybody's good. Everybody's like so well casted. Like I said, the guy who plays Coma, he looked like a fucking Bible salesman. Coma's great. Like, wake up, Coma. Everyone's so good. So it's a really, really, really hard movie to choose awards for, but it's so fun because there's so much competition.
Yeah, very true. I was very surprised. Like, I knew Tyler Hoechlin as the kid Road to Perdition, and as Superman on the Supergirl show on CW. So I didn't know he had this kind of range. So now I'm very impressed by this guy, and I actually want to check out his Superman show now. So thank you for that.
And I think that it's clearly, I mean, obviously Linklater played, and so he clearly had somebody in his time, probably in college, that was the what is I always forget his character's name. What is it? McReynolds on his team, because he's like he's written as a guy that you're kind of in awe of at times. You know what I mean? It's like he's so clearly the leader. He's so clearly the alpha in the room. it's like he's written like from a perspective of like, man, I really respect that guy. Like I really, at times he was an asshole, but like I really respect him, you know?
No.
And I'll fucking say it. He's the hottest. Like he's like the most attractive dude on the team. If they go into a club, like most of the girls are gonna be like, I'm gonna choose that guy over fucking Plum. You know,
Yeah.
like, come on.
Yeah. But yeah, again, he has moments of like he wants to bring Plum in, and yeah, he has that way of like, yeah, I know I'm the best player here, but like even I fall in line. So if I'm gonna fall in line, like you better fall in line too. You know what I mean? This is still a team. Like we're here to compete, and like why not? Like why not try at something? Like there's no harm in in actually trying to do something great. Like that's okay. That's okay in life to kind of pursue something and try hard at something. Like and it's like it shows a real vulnerability to like put yourself out there to try at something and possibly fail. Like I think that's kind of like the lesson he's trying to get at, at different points in the movie. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want to transition Austin to the next thing, but you mentioned it already. But my best scene pick is the table tennis scene because it shows all their personalities like perfectly, and it bleeds right into the Willoughby music, the smoking scene, which is basically like a perfect like 10 minutes. Like I think those 10 minutes are like my favorite kind of like bit of the movie.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, God, that he does not like losing.
Yeah.
I love when Finn's like trying to make like a drink and Roper's like, I just want to fucking drink, and he's like, pardon me for trying to class up the joint a little bit.
Yeah.
But before we get into all that, I will. You can go ahead right after. I think a quote that kind of wraps this movie up so well is when Dale and Finnegan are explaining to Jake like why this works, and Finnegan says, you get a bunch of competitors together and you are addicted to winning. Mm-hmm. It's like, I mean, if we all want to win at everything, when you play baseball, you're all like doing an individual job, and it's like it's just gonna work. Like that's just how the sport works. That's how a lot of team sports work. So I love that. But yeah, okay. So you definitely we're slating you for the ping pong scene. That's good because I chose something different. Connor, where's your head at with the carpenter?
I also went with the ping pong scene.
Oh, nice. Perfect. All right, let go. Nice. Take it away, Connor.
I just love moments where gods bleed. Where you see, when the guy who wins everything loses and he goes out of his mind crazy over this. And it's so so avoidable. It's so unnecessary, but it's crucial to the character to just, I've met guys like that. I've known guys like that. I fucking hated guys like that who are so competitive. It bleeds into everything. And
1917, actually 1719. Thank you, Nesbitt.
17 game.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then just chucking the paddle and breaking it.
Yeah.
It's a great scene. And I just, again, it's because I just like seeing people who think they're invincible, bleed a little bit.
Jake.
Yeah. But it's also why he's so good, right? It's because of that mindset. It's a gift and a curse, right? It's why he's so good at baseball, but it's also like, it's like the fatal flaw, the Achilles heel.
It's a bit of whiplash, right? It's a bit of the whole whiplash philosophy.
Yeah. But the difference is in him as a leader is he actually can like lower himself to be a part of a team, whereas like the team is just an asshole. It's like,
and Miles Teller is just a prick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Turn my pages, bitch.
Yeah.
Very
fucking
much
Johnny
so.
Utah. Yeah. Oh, okay, that's really cool. Y'all both chose that. Obviously, the smoking scene, it's just great. So it's a good kind of space between the notes. It's a good way of kind of learning about who these guys are, like just like at home, right? Because you get different characters in each scene, and you get a hold on them. I do have like one nitpick comes throughout these like house scenes is like, so on a college baseball team, you typically have 23 to 25 players. Where is everybody else?
Yeah. The only time you really,
because there's two houses. They say there's two houses.
Yeah.
So like Jay Niles is in the other house.
Yeah, clearly. Yeah.
And I guess that's it. Like everybody else in the other house, like fuck them.
Well, they say I think houses because of overflow in the athletic dorms. So I'm assuming everyone else is in the athletic dorms.
Maybe they should get the other house, but it's like they just decide not to put any of the main characters in that house. But there is one scene, Austin, where they when it's like right before the basketball season, before the split of the baseball season, where they're walking outside, and you can see a lot more guys just kind of like mingling.
Yes. Well,
It's like, okay, that looks like probably the whole team. Yeah.
yes, when the Eagles all night long love that needle drop plays, there's a guy you only see like once in the whole movie
Right.
walking out
Right.
of the house. He also, the coach says during the meeting, he says, for the 8 of you living in this house and the 8 of you living in that house,
Yeah.
like there will be no girls upstairs or whatever. So it's 16, which is not a full baseball team, like not even close.
And
So
even
there's
in
got like
1980, yeah. Yeah.
so Connor's got to be right. There's got to be some guys still at the dorms, some baseball players
Yeah.
still at the dorms, which
Yeah.
which is good because you don't want to like have too many characters, right? Like
No.
like Dazed has just the right amount of characters. Every once in a while has just the right amount of characters where you could bounce around, but there's still like it's like 10 people, including Beverly, including Zoe Deutsch, who like gets a chance to shine. You still like 10 to 12 people, which is perfect. There's like a clear hierarchy, but I always wondered about that. I was like, I wonder what that guy's doing, But that's movie making. Like you can't show everything, right? That's like the whole point of the movie Slacker is like you got to move on. Like the camera has to keep moving, and I love that about it. So it's not really even a nitpick. It's just kind of like a curiosity, I guess. Okay, sweet. I'm excited to talk about this because Adam, you mentioned it slightly with Plum earlier. My favorite bit of this movie is when they're walking around before the punk show. I think this scene is like spectacular, and another thing we haven't like touched on yet, which I'm like super excited to kind of like break ground here, is they're walking down the street. Plum has the great line of like we're here to play baseball, like, but what is everybody doing? And then Coma is like, yeah, man, if I didn't know like I had a chance to play pro baseball, I don't know what the hell I'd do with my life, Like they're so narrow-minded, which Zoe Deutsch's character Beverly says earlier when they're talking on the phone. She's like, oh, I just thought were like, narrow-minded, not dumb, but narrow-minded. And a lot of athletes are. A lot of athletes are like, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what I'm gonna do, which is why it makes it so unique when you meet an athlete who isn't that way. But I love that. And then you see Jake's friend. What's up, Jake? It's just this ragtag kid out of nowhere. It's like such a crazy like turn in the movie. And then he invites him into the house and he's like, Jake's like, how's Gretchen? Man, fuck Gretchen.
Yeah.
It's such a great character introduction. And then they go in the house, they have that bit or whatever, like, oh man, there's gonna be like tons of bands in town from LA, from Austin, like we'll fix you up. he does that whole shtick, and then they go to the show and like they cut off their sleeves. It's Finn, Jake, Plum, and Coma, and they know at some point they got to get back to the house because they're having this huge party at their house, at the baseball houses. But they're like, all right, like let's do it. Like Jake's like, let's go. Like why not? Fuck it. Like we'll go to this punk show. And what happens in the punk show is like ultimately why I chose this bit. First off, really cool because I think 80s music gets like a certain definition, but there's like so much cool punk music from the 80s. I love that like Linklater also shines a light on that. The Gilligan's theme song, fucking cover, is one of the coolest things I've ever seen in a movie. And another Dazed and Confused connection because there's the great scene in the girls' restroom during Dazed and Confused where they're talking about Gilligan's Island. And here we have kind of an homage to that in this movie. And then you have the conversation between Finnegan and Jake about like, what are we doing? And Jake's like, Jake's the 18-year-old, he's a freshman. Finn is probably a senior, 21 years old, has been doing this for 3 years, right? And he's like, Jake's like, oh man, like this kind of like questions my identity. Like I'm having an identity crisis. And Finn's like, why? Like, he's like, well, one night we were at the disco. Next night, we were at the what's it called? The Wholesome, what the name of that?
It's like a country bar or whatever.
Yeah, it's like the Great Wholesome or whatever. And he's like, now we're at a punk rock show like three nights in a row. Like we just have completely changed like who we are. So like we can like hang out and like get drunk and stuff. And Finn's like, no, man, we're just a couple of guys that are willing to do whatever it takes to get laid. and then they hear the song kick off and they both like start like getting amped up, throw their drinks down and jump into the mosh pit. And they've like become completely immersed into this part of culture just like that. It shows just kind of how easy it is to sway someone who's like 18, 19, 20, 21 years old just by vibes, girls, drinks, like it's so easy to sway them like, oh, let's go do this. Like, we'll fuck shit up, like let's go. And I was like that. I was like so like that. I from age probably 19 to 20, really up until I met Brianna, really. I was just like so like I'm down for whatever. I'll do whatever, like to just hang out, be around people, and do crazy shit, you know. And I feel like a relatability to these characters on that front. Not pretty much. I wasn't doing things to get laid like to the extent that these guys are, but to just like be around, like the fear of missing out, the FOMO part of like you're like, oh well, like if my buddy's doing this, like I want to be at this party, even if it means like there's like going to be like a dangerous thing that happens or a stupid thing that happens. I just want to be like there. I want to be present for it. And there's something about this movie and about Linklater in general that it's like, man, like if you're not there, it doesn't exist type thing. And I've always been so enamored by that with his movies and specifically with this movie. And I think this scene just kind of wraps all that up, I guess, for me anyway. Like puts it in, like in a bow the way that Finnegan's just like, nah, dude, like I'll tell you what we're doing. And you're like, yeah, like that's okay. And that's okay. To be 21, young, dumb, and full of cum is okay.
You're hitting on the key point there, which is the age, right? That they're at. Like this would be strange if this was a movie about 55-year-old men, you know, like the point of college, right? And what he's trying to show is like we're supposed to try on different hats, like literally try on different hats, see what we like, see what we don't like figure out different things, read stuff, study stuff, talk to different types of people. Like that's the whole kind of point, right? That's like kind of what he's trying to get at. And Finn kind of crystallizes it in a, you know, in a pretty, you know, it's always like a humorous way, but I think it's like pretty profound. It's like no, like at this point in our life, like we're it's like it's okay. Like I'm not making some grand statement because like one night I went to a country bar, one night I went to the sound machine. You know, it's like that's like I'm just trying different hats on and just seeing what fits me, and I'll discover that later. I don't need to discover that right this second tonight, and then tomorrow, the same thing. But yeah, but the one character is what's his name? With the sunglasses. Jake? No,
oh, wait.
That tries to come in and Jake calls him. He's like, at least take the sunglasses off. You look like a narc.
Coma. Yeah.
Yeah. Coma. Yeah. Untuck the shirt, you know, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he clearly is having a little bit of like, but I'm supposed to be this. I'm supposed to be this. And it's like, there's like this liberating thing to the other guys who are just like, yeah, whatever. You know, it's like, cool. It's like, that's fine when you're 18 to, you know, 22 to, or even to an older extent. But it's like, there is a point where it's like, okay, I'm constantly just like this chameleon. It's like, okay, then who actually am I? You know what I mean? But at the point of their life that they're at, that they're trying to show us right now, that's what they should be doing. That's great. That makes sense, you know? And I think it's shown pretty, it's really smart. It's really smartly done, I think.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, it's like one of Linklater's best things is like the passage of time. It's called the guaranteed wholesome. and earlier in the movie, Peter Perkins, Billy Autry, he says like, we went down to the guaranteed wholesome, you know. There's like that whole bit. And also the guy who says like, fuck Gretchen. Like it's such a heat check performance. That guy's name is Michael Mansour. He plays a character named Justin in this movie. Great bit. But Connor, I wanted to speak to you because about this in general and just kind of hear your thoughts because like Adam went to college for a little bit and lived in College Station for a while. I did not go to college like at all. I was just around people who were like down to party around the ages of, 18, 19, 20, 21. But Connor, you like went to like a proper university. In fact, one that's very similar to like what this is, like there's a lot of house parties in San Marcos at Texas State that are similar to what happens in this movie. So do you feel like you met people who are having these like crises all the time?
Oh, all the time. I befriended a lot of them. I had crisis of my own, every other day I'd think like, why am I here? Like, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing right? Your college is like 50% second guessing yourself and 50% getting fucked up. And I have a lot of regrets of my own. I made decisions that I'm sure cost me some life experiences. Just deciding to, I won't go there or I will go over here. And I do wish I'd gotten to experience a little bit more of the crazy side of college. But, I mean, that's not really me. I feel like if I'd done that, I would have just been, miserable and awkward because that's just who I am. I hate parties.
There you go. That's your experience.
Yeah, but you figured that out. You know what I mean? You figured that out, which is the point. That's great,
Yeah, it is. It is great. I mean, I'm still figuring myself out. I got my master's degree. I did my thesis, and I still don't know what the fuck I want. Like, I don't know where I'm supposed to be. I don't know who I'm supposed to be. I don't know when I'm going to figure that out. I don't think anybody does. Like, I think very few people on this earth know exactly what they're supposed to do. And I envy those people. I don't know any of them. I think I don't.
Yeah. Well, you're talking to one who's pretty close to that. I mean, I wouldn't say I have it totally figured out by any means. I mean, I've got plenty of flaws and mistakes and things like that. But in terms of kind of like a direction and identity in life and kind of like a comfortability with who I am, I'm pretty much there as much as you can be for someone, you know, my age. Obviously, I've got a few years on you guys, but yeah, I think you're right. I think nobody like totally knows all the time. I mean, there's moments where I'm in the gym working with kids, which is like the thing I love to do the most, right? Like use basketball to kind of like help kids and talk to kids and stuff like that. And there's still moments where I'm like, am I supposed to be doing this? Like, is this, you know, should I keep doing this? Should I do this another year? Should this, you know what I mean? It's like, there's still moments, and it's like this thing I love and have been doing for so long now, but like, you're always going to feel that no matter what it is. But yeah, but like broadly, I feel like, oh no, this is what I'm supposed to do, you know? And like, I gotta do whatever it takes to continue doing this thing, because this is what I'm supposed to do. And so I relate to different parts of this movie and different guys, because there are moments where I wasn't like that. And then there's times where I actually really enjoy watching someone try to discover that stuff, because I never really had that like period of discovery, because I kind of just like knew this all along, you know, like, so I watched some of these guys in this movie, or friends of mine that are just like, had these like real, you know, epiphanies of kind of like a self-discovery type thing. I think it's really cool. It's really cool to watch, you know, like someone kind of come to that conclusion. And then conversely, I've had friends that I hope that they find that, and they've struggled to do so, you know, they have not quite done that yet, you know. It's like, man, like I hope that happens. I hope they find something that they can kind of like hang their hat on, that kind of drives them a little bit. And it's like, I'm so blessed to have it. And like you said, you know, you're envious of that. I appreciate that, because it's not something I take for granted. You know what I mean? Like, I know not everybody has that. So, I'm like, it's so appreciative that I have this like thing that kind of like helps me and drives me, forward. It's great. I mean, it really is nice. But yeah, and you can tell some guys in this movie have it, and then some guys don't. So, I relate to both of them at times.
Well, I don't know if I'm exactly envious of it. I think I'm more just curious of like, how do you ever know, like, when you're, but I also think that like, that's kind of life, you know, life is trying on many hats. It's experiencing new things. It's going out of your comfort zone as much as possible to find some kind of direction, whether that be for like 10 years or 10 days. You know, I know it's cliche, but the journey really is the destination.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. And like, that is like the entire point, right? It's like if everything is just a ladder constantly, then it's like, you'll never actually like stop to kind of enjoy that climb, you know? It's like, or whatever that may be. It's like, I don't even view things as a climb. Like, I really just view it as all kind of like this just path that we're just on, and we're just trying to figure out, you know, like that's the whole point. It's like, I think the people who do view it strictly as a climb, it will just never get high enough, you know, like it'll just always be like, there's gotta be more rungs. There's gotta be more rungs. And it's like, you get to the top and you look down and be like, oh, what was all that for? You know, like, why did I do that? So, yeah, I mean, we're getting philosophical here, but this is I think what is the genius of the movie, right? It makes you think about stuff because of how the characters, how they react, some of the conversations that they have, and obviously they get deep. You know, at the very end of the movie, with Blake Jenner and Zoe Deutsch's character talking at the river, like about like Sisyphus, and like, you know, like, oh, I think there's a real beauty in like what he, you know, it gave him a purpose, it gave him a drive. You know, it's like, I thought that scene was like, I kind of forgotten about that, but it's like kind of lovely, you know, like, I think that's actually really cool. Like that's the lesson he took from that. I mean, people can take different lessons from different, you know, parables like that, like the myth of Sisyphus, but I think it's cool that that's the one he drew from it.
Yeah. I love when Jake's character gets to kind of shine in that moment of like rolling the boulder up the hill, and he kind of compares it to pitching, where he's like, I just get to like zone out, and like, you're kind of like one with like you're one with something. And that's like important enough, right? Like, we're all gonna die one day. We all have like so many days to try to figure out what we enjoy. And if you find it, you should probably stick with it, right? You know, you should probably try to get good at it, you know, because, you know,
you're
not gonna.
What have we been doing for 4 years?
Yeah, exactly. And talking about movies, watching movies is definitely just what I feel like most comfortable with, and like most happy, but also like really challenged by it, because I clearly sound like I haven't been to school. Like, I haven't been to anything that's taught. Like, I've taught myself a lot of this stuff, you know. I've just watched so much shit. And when it comes to either movies or sports, like, I don't have anyone who's kind of, you know, I've had like people like you guys. I've had Connor who's like held my hand in certain like movie moments, and And Adam, you've been someone who's like, oh, like, here's how I think about basketball. Like, what do you think about this? You know, you can like bounce off those ideas. Like that to me is like what I live for is that communal experience of, oh, here's like a passion and your passion, like let's ignite it together. And like that's why it's so fun to do the podcast, because you don't know what's going to happen. Like, you know, you're going to talk about Linklater, you know, you're going to talk about Everybody Wants Some, but you don't know what's going to go here, right? You know, and like as silly as it is, it all goes back to you got to tune in, man. And, like, you know, like listen to the progression, change it, you know, like the space between the notes thing is real. Like point A to point B, whatever happens in between, like it does matter. You know, it can matter. So I wholeheartedly agree with you guys, and this is one of those conversations you could just keep going and keep going, like like time is flat, you know, like it's a construct. It's like one of those things where you're kind of like, we could just keep going. We just keep going forever on this topic, because it is our purpose to continually find that out, even if we keep failing to find it out. You know, it's really cool. It's really enlightening and also very scary. So I love stuff like that. I love that.
The meaning of life is searching for the meaning of life.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah, I think so. And today the search was through Everybody Wants Some, you know, and like, I think you guys see why, like, I had to have this movie in my list. Is I love the ideas it brings up. I love how it makes me feel. I love how much it makes me laugh. I love how it feels so realistically like a sports team. I love the characters. I love the music. I love everything about it. So it was very hard to cut other movies, like Moneyball was very hard to cut. You know, I had a hard time cutting Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but it was like, this movie's too important to my DNA to not have on this list.
I get it, man. Doing this list, like doing deep dives onto our lists, is really helping me understand y'all in like better ways. And I hope it's helping y'all understand me better.
Definitely. Yeah.
It's exciting. This was a very cool project that is going very well.
Yeah, no, I'm enjoying it as well. Yeah. And I don't know if you guys are kind of ready to wrap up some talk about the actual movie, because I still have some notes like from some stuff that is just like
go ahead, dude. Yeah, here.
Well, so number one, and I want you guys to maybe put you on the spot a little bit here, but we talk about like all in one day movies or whatever, but all in one weekend movies. I mean, this is right up there. I mean, I was trying to think of some other ones that like are really good, like all in one weekend movies, but I mean, this is right there. One I watched somewhat recently was The Big Chill. That's all in one weekend.
Yeah. The Big Chill has an influence on Linklater for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's like a little out of touch with some stuff, but that general kind of like, where are we? What are we doing? Even though we're like in our early 30s, we should have it figured out, but we still don't. Like, they lied to us. I love that part of The Big Chill, and the acting is just fucking like top notch. But man, that is tough. Weekend movies, I'd have to really think about that, man. Let's see. I'm trying to think what.
I don't like you guys. Yeah, like come up on the top of your head.
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of like my favorite movies, and I'm like, are any of those just weekend
all one
movies?
Weekend? Yeah.
No, I don't know. I don't know.
There's movies like wedding ones that you could kind of come up with that, like, oh yeah, that's just like a weekend essentially. Like, I mean, Meet the Parents is just a few days, right?
Yeah, it is. It like feels like 3 or 4 days. Yeah,
right. that's a great movie. I love Meet the Parents, but that's one thing that kind of stood out to me, and also the flow of the movie. Like, Connor, you had seen it before we did it for this, right?
No, this was my first time.
Oh, okay, interesting. So, what did you think? Because this stood out. I've seen this, I don't know, 4 or 5 times. Awesome. I know you've seen like a ton, but what stood out to me this time was like the flow of it. Like, it just like kind of hits right away. It just kind of flows the entire time. There's no real like dud moments. I mean, what did you think about that?
Well, I felt this is another one of those movies that like is going to happen with or without an audience. Like, you're just into a world that's happening, and you get to watch. And I like those kinds of movies. I appreciated the like little 2 days before class starts things to like let us know where we're at. But we really need that.
Yeah.
I like that it ends like right when class begins. Like, this is the last hurrah before the mundane sets in.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I know I've been there so many times. I've had so many the day before class starts in my life, and yeah, it does feel like that. It's like, okay, now things aren't going to be fun anymore for quite some time.
Yeah. No, I think they nail that. They nail that pretty well. And also, I mean, you've hit on it a little bit already, but the constantly competing thing is just like so smart because that's exactly. I mean, every team I've ever been a part of, they've got somebody like that. Now that especially the best ones, like there was a team I was kind of a part of as an assistant coach in St. Louis, this school I was at, and it was just like that. It's like we just competed, and I was part of it too. I was pretty young at the time, so we just competed at everything. I mean, just yeah, it's like who could like eat something the fastest, or who could. It's like there's just constantly competing, and so it made me think. What if this movie was set in 2023? What are the little differences in like the things they would compete in? Obviously, I don't think like too hard about this because I'm a part of a team right now, but I made me think of like obviously video games would be a huge element of it.
Yeah.
Like that would be just such a massive like they'd just be playing 2K or whatever, like just constantly competing with each other on that, like just talking shit through that. That'd be one thing. But what are some things that you guys think would like they would just be like, oh yeah, that's like a difference, like something they maybe didn't have in 1980 they'd be competing at like right now.
They would be making like dumbass TikTok videos to try to get the most followers for sure.
Yeah.
Like just them like falling off of shit or something like that.
Social media. Yeah. Social media would play a big part. Yeah.
For sure.
Well, they also nail the bit like it's a very short scene, but it's so perfect because it's so true. Like they discover Jake's letter jacket, and they're like, "Oh, second team
all stater."
Because
yeah.
when you get to college, your high school accomplishments among those guys, like on your team, like they just mean nothing. Like you could be like the best player in your whole state, but it's like once you get to that level, the things that you did at the previous level just don't matter. Like they just don't matter. It's like oh cool, you were like that in high school. Who cares? You know what I mean? Like what are you doing right now? Like that's all that matters. So that's such a really smart scene. That's like very realistic. That happens on all kinds of teams, whether it's college, pro, whatever it may be. I really like that. But yeah, that's another like little sign that clearly someone that obviously Linklater who wrote this was a part of a team.
Well, that kind of comes up in Dazed when like the freshmen are like, oh, we're they're the kings of middle school, but now once high school rolls around, they're back at the bottom of the pecking order, and it's hard to get used to that. And then when you're a senior in high school and suddenly you're a freshman in college, you're not that important anymore. And it's hard to cope with that sometimes, especially if you were top dog. And I like that Linklater covers that in multiple times. The idea of like the rise and fall of your self-importance.
Yeah. No, I think that's really smart. I think that's a really he does a good job of kind of like showing that without just hitting you over the head with it. And then Austin, you mentioned Austin Emilio as Nesbitt. That guy is so funny in this movie, and he is a combination of so many people that we know. Like just so
yes,
like, he is a perfect amalgamation of like 5 people that I know.
Yeah, he's lights out in this movie, and I love. I can't believe I hadn't mentioned this yet, but the bitch stick scene when he's like, "The fuck is that? Hey, have your balls dropped? Did you shoot a shot like you got some semen in your sack? Come on!" And then Brum like walks away with the bitch stick, or like walks away or whatever, and Nesbitt looks at I think Roper, and he's like, "The fuck is this?" Like points to the stick. He's so good. Nez has this thing about him that reminds me of a lot of people I know, where he's kind of like right here, right now is the greatest place to be on earth. Like wherever the fuck I am, like partying is great. And you see that right when Jake walks into the big party on the last night, or the second to last night, sorry. And Jake walks in, and Nesbitt goes down the stairs on a mattress, and he's like, "Welcome to the fucking party, Jake." He's like, and Jake's like, "The hell, like Jesus, like this guy's off his rocker." So he's really good. I mean, you can go through everybody. Like the guy who plays fucking Billy Autry, plays Peter Perkins, is money. Like,
he's good.
He's money. When you have the bit where Jake goes into the room to like say, "Hey, can I bring that Val girl up here?"
Yeah,
and like it's in mid story for Peter Perkins, and he's like, "She told me to go fly a kite."
Yeah.
Is there a waiver for Lone Star? Yeah. I mean, just like, this movie's so good, man. The Zoe Deutsch scene when they first hang out at her apartment. I mean, I'm getting chills right now. She just is like,
she's so charming,
so lovely. Like,
so charming. Yeah.
And when she talks about like the theater kids from like her high school, and she's like, la la la, like I've met that person. I don't know where, but like I've met that person like a few times. I don't know who it is, but I'm like, man, she captures something that's like, whoa. Like I've met a lot of like 20 to 25-year-old girls like that, like Beverly.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for bringing that up because you reminded me of a story I wanted to tell. My freshman year, I was staying in Laurel Hall on Texas State.
Hell yeah! Shout
I
out Laura Hall.
Oh no. I was I was I had gotten into the honors college, and I thought that's where I was supposed to be. Turns out no, they were in another building. So I was in this shitty dorm with all the theater students. And there was this one girl, I think her name was Madison. She every fucking day.
Oh,
I would hear The Worst Pies in London from Sweeney Todd bellowing through the building, like in the morning, in the evening, whenever she was there. And after about 2 days, I wanted to kill her. She just would, it's the only song from the fucking musical she knew by heart, apparently, and she just kept singing it.
These are probably the worst.
To this day, I have like a physical reaction to that song. I love that movie, but I've heard that song about 300 times against my will.
What a hilarious, what a specific song to like, you know what I mean?
Pirelli's miracle.
Every time I'd like walk past her in the hallway, she'd be like, like getting started, and I'm like, I would like try to move faster to get to my room.
She like looks at you and like, quick, what's your rush? What's your hurry?
Yeah.
Connor's like, for the love of God.
She was nice too. She just had no clue. I could not be the only person she was turning into a rabid monster.
Definitely not.
Dear God, man. That is yeah. You've told me that story, but I forgot like the exact details of it. I just knew it had to deal with Sweeney Todd.
That's hilarious. You know, also I just reminded of a scene. You guys will both appreciate this. The scene when it's I think it's Jake and Nesbitt that come into the little like restaurant they're sitting at to like break the news that Willoughby's like been busted or whatever.
It's Plum and Nesbitt.
Oh yeah, it's Plum. Yeah, you're right.
We smoked it.
Yeah, smoked. Yeah, that line. Yeah, smoked it. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, he left a fat joint on the Pink Floyd record, man.
It's just so good. I love all of their
fucking 30.
Yeah, 30. Yeah, all their theorizing about like why he would have done that, like, is so good too. And like, and they you know, a couple of them take like a pretty kind, like, it's like, look, this is just a guy who probably like loved playing baseball and just like wanted to keep going. Like
it's a lifestyle. Yeah,
like that's all it is. Like he didn't really want to stop. You know, so yeah, wasn't quite pros. So yeah.
I'm just reminded that we've like almost gone through the whole movie, but I'm reminded of that scene too. Whenever that happens, where they like come in like Willoughby, that's like Dale's best moment is when he's like, look, man, like those guys sitting over there, and he points at Roper and McReynolds. He's like, you got 21, 22-year-old guys that don't give a fuck what happens to you. Yeah. And he's like, so I have one like piece of advice: mentally toughen the fuck up. Yeah, he does that like kind of like Southern like fuck up. And it's like such a good bit because it's good advice because it's like, dude, they look at you as competition. They look at you as someone who could like replace them possibly. So like you just gotta like battle it out, man. Just keep battling and be a part of what's going on. And it's such a good scene too. And that's right after they go like to the swimming hole where Jay Niles is like in a jock strap and just and like jumps into the water. They're all going nuts and like, man, I just like this is one of those movies where I'm like, I wish I was an actor so I could do that. Mm-hmm. Like hang out like that. Like there must be some movies, especially Linklater movies, where you're just like, wow, this is fun as shit. You know, this is just we're having a blast and like there's a camera right over there. You know, it's one of those experiences. I feel like I think I said at the beginning of the show, like they're all going to take with them forever.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know how much you guys, I don't know if you talked about this at all before I got on, but I think it's worth saying, like, I mean, Blake Jenner, like, there's moments in this movie where it's like, okay, this is not maybe like a future superstar, but I think when he's with Glenn Powell is when he's at his strongest. Like, there's clearly something that Glenn Powell brings out of him, where you see the most kind of charisma. I think in the scenes where it's the two of them together, it's like, okay, like this guy does have some stuff in there. I think overall it's a fine performance. It's nothing, it's not bad, but I think the scenes with him and then the scenes with Zoe Deutsch too are where you see him kind of like shine a little bit. Where when he's kind of by himself and he's having to carry kind of certain scenes, like, oh, it's maybe not as impressive. But I don't know if y'all talked about Blake Jenner at all, but I thought I was curious what your thoughts were on his performance in general.
Yeah, I think he's really good. I also think he just like has like such an interesting look. I think his haircut is hilarious. I think like the way he like the choice of like where the sleeves come up at on his biceps, like the tucked in look. But he's like not a square, but he's also not like a jock. He's also not a stoner. He's kind of all of them. He's very much like Pink Floyd from Dazed and Confused.
Yes,
like he can hang out. He can hang out with anybody. So,
well, he's the Linklater stand-in. You got to imagine. You know what I mean?
You would think, right? I looked that up. He was an outfielder, Linklater, and I was like, I would have thought for sure he was a pitcher because like Jake is a pitcher, but there's definitely got to be some like autobiographical stuff. I love when he pitches against Mac and he gets one strike and Plum's like 0-1, and Mac's like, no, I'll make it 0-2. And then he, gets like a double on him or whatever. And he's like, welcome to college baseball, freshman. all right, ping pong champ. Let's see what you got. Like I love the way like Jake like takes that, like reacts to it. So it is a good. I don't think anybody's bad. Like I don't think anybody's bad.
No,
and that's like something that actually is kind of rare in Linklater movies. There's always like people who clearly don't act. Like the kid who plays Mitch Kramer is bad in Dazed and Confused. Like
bad.
Oh man, like I hate that guy, man. like in Boyhood, like I love that movie to death. The people who are like the main characters, aside from Patricia Arquette and Ethan Hawke, aren't good. Like Elder Coltrane's not a very good actor. It's just like it's like a project. It's like an experience. But I love that Linklater like doesn't really like let that hold him back. But whoever was the casting, director here for Everybody Wants Some, just like well done.
Yeah, I agree. No one's bad. Everyone kind of stands out in their own way. They've all got their moment, and that's good. Jenner to me is just a, I don't know, kind of like he came out of a, like he walked into life looking like that.
Yes.
Like he just has this, like, they made him backstage and here he is. He looks 3 days old.
If that I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
I love that. That was well said. Yeah. He just walked into life as Jake Bradford.
Yeah, he just my last little bit is this is just an admission. Because you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I once messaged the girl that plays she was in the girl that's in Boyhood and this movie, Austin. She plays the
wow.
Yes. At the time we were about the same. Well, at the time we still are about the same age, and she lived like an hour away from where I was living at the time. And I was like, why not? I'll just like just be like, oh hey, I really enjoyed your work in this thing, like whatever. No response.
You should have used her quote from Boyhood, and you'd be like, how they say like seize the moment.
Oh my god!
So, I think it's the other way around. I think the moment seizes us. Want to go out?
That would have worked. But alas, life took a different turn.
She is like frighteningly gorgeous. I don't know like where they found all these people, but they're all like these beautiful. Like Glenn Powell's like one of the most beautiful human beings I've ever laid eyes upon, and I think Sydney Sweeney thinks so as well. So.
Yeah, no, there's some stuff there. I've been seeing that.
Little controversy there in Hollywood.
Controversy, yeah.
Well, shit.
It's a great movie. I'm really glad it was on the list, and it made me question why it wasn't on mine after we watched it.
Well, I feel the same way, but like, god damn, I mean, it's 10 movies is so few from like that big of a pool. Like, I watched Everybody Wants Some, and then like the next night I watched I think some It's Always Sunny and just kind of hung out. Watched the basketball, of course, because the playoffs have been fascinating. And then last night I watched Moneyball, and I was just like, oh, like I'm so devastated no one chose this, including myself. Like what's wrong with me? Because I just have fucking like the hairs on my neck are standing up almost the entire 2 hours of Moneyball. Like that's just a perfect film. So that's the way the cookie crumbles, right? You gotta kill your darlings here, and with the 2010s we all have a lot, so they're really tough. And Everybody Wants Some, of course. Like I think Moneyball is a better overall movie, but I just feel like it explains me like a lot. Like I think Everybody Wants Some just to kind of is like a part of my DNA, like I said. So we could go on forever, but we do have one more segment that I think will be fun this week. What's in the box? Talk about a little bit of Letterboxd reviews. I've got 3 of them, so let's go ahead and do that. What's in the fucking box? Give me the gun. All right. I got two positive, Um, well, I'll start with this like really positive. Like it's a 5-star review. It's also just like made me laugh my ass off. It's like one of the most popular ones for this movie, and it's from just their username on Letterboxd is Vance. Look up Vance.
Early to Letterboxd with that name.
Yes. This is good because you guys both also know what they're referencing. This is the gayest film of 2016, including Moonlight.
Damn.
5 stars.
That's funny.
Yeah, Moonlight's a movie we'll be talking about like in a couple months because Adam and I both had it on our list. Yeah, I mean, there is so much tension and everybody wants some that you're like, someone here is gay, you know, and it's 1980, so like none of them are gonna like come out, right? If they did, it'd be like a tough conversation. But come on, you know, just by statistics, like one of these guys is gay, and no one's gonna say it. And it's actually like an interesting way to watch the movie. You're just like, these guys are fucking animals, man, and they like feel like they're acting a way that they feel like they have to act. So I thought that was like a really, really interesting little funny sentence.
Interesting. It reminds me of somebody pitched a reality show on I think it was Instagram or Twitter, one of them, where he said the concept is you put 12 gay guys in a house and you tell one of them is straight, but then you find out over the course of the show that like everyone was told like everyone is straight. They're all told that everyone else is straight.
Yeah.
So it's like you can watch it like that kind of mindset of like, you know, who here is, I don't know. That's hilarious though.
Yeah. Just that's it. That's the gayest movie of 2016 is a funny, funny thought. But I have one more positive one, and then I have a negative one. I'll do the negative one now, then we can finish on a good note. This is, I just thought this was a good review. I actually thought, oh, I get it. I relate to this. 2.5-star review here for Everybody Wants Some by Melody Esma. It's Melody spelled the normal way, ESME. Someone I've been following for a long time. I like this review. So one of the reasons I followed them was I read this. And they say, I do like how the setting of this film is an inverse of Dazed and Confused, taking place during the days before college semester begins, as opposed to the final day of high school. But as much as I love Linklater, I don't think I love him enough to pretend I don't hate frat boy comedies. There are so many funny moments. I quite liked the punk band covering the Gilligan's Island theme, and a few bits of tenderness, especially in the lead character's sweet relationship with the theater girl. Just as there was an occasional sweetness in Animal House. Yet, by the end, I'm left wondering why, in the hell, I've spent 2 hours with these stupid bros that I've avoided my entire life. I'm like, yeah, I get it.
Sure. Makes sense.
Yeah, 2.5 stars. Connor, I think you mentioned earlier you like avoided these people.
Frat dudes are the most obnoxious motherfuckers on the planet. I had class during like the first week of like pledge week once, and they were all the different squads were on campus trying to poach people, be like, hey, you want to join our frat, bro? And I had one guy walk up to me and be like, what did he say? He said, have you ever thought about joining a frat, man? And I went right in his face and I went, not at all. And kept walking, and it floored him. He was like, what? Like, how could you be be at college and not want to, you know, hurt people like in a weird hazing ritual and just drink the whole time? Like, why would you not want to do that? Why are you here? I broke the guy. It was awesome.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I totally agree. This is not my crowd really. While I do like love sports and like played sports at a time in my life, I definitely am not drawn to this chaos.
If I ever hear anybody say like, oh, I was, Phi Beta, whatever the fuck, I'm like, oh, I'm done talking to you.
Yeah, I haven't met that many people that I'm, friends with. That's like, oh yeah, I rushed or whatever. Like I just don't. It doesn't happen very often. But I Adam and I do have a mutual friend that I won't say his name, but he definitely. I thought about him. All right, I do think about him every time I watch this movie.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yep, but
yeah, great guy.
Look, it's a world I have to live in at times. You know what I mean? It's like, but my point, my goal is to try to break that, because I definitely get judged from like afar. It's like, oh, basketball coach, like bro, like All he cares about is sports, and it's like, oh yeah, that's not all I care about. It's like one can contain multitudes. It's okay to be really
Yes.
into something, and also so I always take it as like a lesson to not just judge a book by its cover. And it's like, hey, like like if we all judged Finn, the way that like we like have in the past, it's like, well, then we never get to know this like interesting person, this interesting character who does kind of have like different ideas and opinions on the world and things. So I try to approach that stuff with like just total empathy. It's like, and even if I met like kind of like a frat bro at times, it'd be like, okay, like I'm not like, this is not somebody I want to hang out with, but it's like, oh, at least like hear them out on some stuff, because it's like hopefully they do contain multitudes. Now there's a chance that they don't, but I have to at least take that chance.
With me,
Correct.
it's just I've met so many of these people that they tend not to contain multitudes. They're always on the quad trying to poach people for their dumbass group. And when you don't want to do that, they always get some kind of like they always get offended. Like, well, why not, bro? Like, what's wrong with it? Like,
Well, because they need their thing to have meaning. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't have meaning if like not everyone wants to do it.
Yeah. It's just,
That's not a good thing.
I don't want to judge anybody, but I had so many interactions with the same kind of person.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Imagine Connor walking around the quad at Texas State, just like, there's just so much nonsense, right? That's just fucking noise.
It's why one thing I really liked about grad school is all the classes were in the evening, so all these assholes had packed up shop at that point.
Packed up shop.
I didn't have to deal with their shit while I was walking through the quad. It was empty.
Yeah. They got fucking Keystone Light to drink at night so that they can get back in the morning and do it again.
Every semester we get an email about like, hey, remember, hazing is wrong and it's illegal, so don't do it. It's like they got to keep reminding people, don't be a fucking moron and get yourself killed joining a club. It's just
God, dude. Yeah, it's sad. It's sad. And like with athletes, they're like, well, I don't need to do that. I'm already in a club because like I'm on the baseball. I'm a baseball player, right? Like doesn't matter what you're studying. You're he's a baseball player. I love that bit too from this movie. So it's true. Well, it's like sad. It's true. So yeah, I thought that 2.5-star review was like polite, but also at the end was like, I got a little bite. Like I'll attack what I want to attack, even though some of this was kind of funny.
Oh yeah, I totally get it. Like there's a certain element of frat culture that is reported more than other elements of frat culture, and
yeah,
you get a movie that appears to sell. And I don't think this movie celebrates frat culture at all. Like this is about baseball players being idiots, which is fine. I didn't see a Greek letter in sight, so I'm totally okay with these people. But I get it. I get if you'd see that, yeah.
Yeah, because Linklater himself was a baseball player, not really a typical frat guy. So, and he also he is one of the few that contain multitudes. So, and obviously that's come to fruition now. But my last review is from Spencer. It's a 5-star review. I thought this was just really well put. Wrapped up my thoughts really well. I could have started the podcast with this and saved a lot of time. But that's not the point. They say this is a review from 3 years ago, in 2020, January of 2020. That easygoing, laid-back vibe is exactly what makes Everybody Wants Some one of the finest American comedies I've ever seen. Linklater eschews all but the most inconsequential of conflict and narrative, instead content to follow around a group of likable and amusingly unlikable people, trusting that their interactions and antics will be enough. Not only is it enough, it ranks amongst one of the most delightful 2-hour films I've ever seen. 5 stars.
Very nice. Very pleasant.
Yeah. I feel very similarly.
Yeah, sometimes you just need, if you can't get relaxed, watch something that's going to relax for you.
Yeah. And I think I've seen this movie so many times that it's done multiple things. It's relaxed me, been almost like therapy, I'm just having fun. It's also made me think. It's depends on how you're viewing it, right? With the intention of giving this movie awards, it was a lot more difficult because you're focusing on every little space between the notes. You're trying to really hone in on that stuff. So I'm grateful for every watch. I've seen it probably fucking 20 times already, and I'm just grateful for all of them.
Yeah, I liked it. think it'll be a while before if I go back to it. I don't know yet. I gave it 3.5 stars, or I plan to give it 3.5 stars. I still have to review it, but it's definitely more your speed. I can see that.
3.5 stars is also what you gave Dazed and Confused. So, they're on level playing field here.
Yeah.
You are nothing if not consistent, Connor.
I try.
That's good quality. Good quality. So yeah, no, obviously I really like it too. It was close to my top 10. So I'm really glad, Austin, you had it and it gave us a chance to revisit it and talk about it. That was really fun.
Yeah, an absolute blast. It's an easy 5-star movie for me. 10 out of 10. Just one of the gems for me from the 2010s. So this is awesome. We've gone through our 10s now. Started with Adams, number 10, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Went on to Connor's Ready Player One, and now today, Everybody Wants Some. So we're gonna continue next week. We're gonna continue to do this thing. We're gonna move back to Adam's list with his number 9, which is Inside Out. So that'll come out sometime next week. Super stoked for that. I mean, that's going to create some interesting conversations. I tell Definitely. You what. So super excited. We got some stuff coming out this week. We're going to be keeping this thing rolling. So thanks you guys for listening. If you like what we do, feel free to follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. At Filmgazm Productions is the easiest way to search us. A great way to kind of keep in touch with our team is follow Connor95 on Letterboxd. You go to his followers or who he's following. You can find Adam, myself, Caleb, Josh, all kinds of people that are involved in Filmgazm stuff through that. That's the easiest way. Check out filmgazm.com you can listen to our podcast there. You can see trailers, see reviews that have been on there for the past decade now. So good shit. Just keep trying to support us. If you'd like to become a monthly donor to Filmgazm Productions, feel free to click on the link in the episode description. From there, click on support this podcast. Any amount of donations will go right back into the podcast. This is what we're trying to do. We want to make this thing as best as possible. So we appreciate any support any of you can give. Thanks to the entire Filmgazm team for their contributions to the show. Special shout out to Cooley Cal for the sick intro music that we have week in, week out. Most of all, thank you guys for listening. Without you guys, we're not going to be bullshitting about, Willoughby and Plumber and all these dumbass characters. So it's been a lot of fun. Keep watching movies. We'll see you guys soon.